All right, so you've seen them a million times, right? Those charts that just curve up and your brain immediately screams, exponential growth. But what if that gut feeling is actually wrong? Today, we are diving into something called the Buddha breakpoint. And trust me, it's a concept that's going to totally change how you look at growth forever. So let's kick things off with this really powerful idea. Curves lie sometimes, structure tells the truth. I mean, this gets right to the heart of a huge misconception, you know? It basically means the shape you see on a graph, it can totally fool you. But the actual mechanics, the how of its growth, that can't. So the big question is, how do we train ourselves to see that structure instead of just getting tricked by the curve? Okay, first things first. Let's talk about this visual trap. I mean, why are these curves that sweep upwards so darn deceptive to our eyes? Yeah, this is the big one. We all do it. You see a line that starts to bend upwards, and boom, your brain just jumps to one conclusion. It has to be exponential growth. But here's the thing. That's a really dangerous assumption, because the shape you're looking at, well, it's not the whole story, not even close. So if the curve itself can lie to us, where do we find the truth? Well, we gotta look deeper, right? At the underlying structure. You could almost call it the beat of the growth. And to really get that, believe it or not, we're gonna turn to, an actual song. No, I'm serious. To really wrap our heads around the difference between two really fundamental types of growth, we just have to listen really closely. The secret is all about that structure, and it's hiding in plain sight. Or I guess you could say in plain sound. And that song, it's Cardi B's Bodak Yellow. Now, what's so cool about this is how the beat itself is put together. The structure of that beat, it's like the perfect analogy for understanding how these different kinds of growth actually work in the real world. So just think about how that beat grows in the song. It starts out, pretty simple, a controlled foundation. But as the song goes on, new layers get stacked on top. Maybe a hi-hat here, a synth line there. But here's the key, and this is everything. Those new sounds, they don't just play next to the original beat. No, they play on top of the entire thing that's already there. So every single cycle carries more weight than the one before it. That, my friends, is the compounding effect in action. And this is just a brilliant way to see the core difference we're talking about today. It all comes down to one question. Is the beat just adding a new sound each time, or is it multiplying its own intensity? Okay, so check this out. On the left, we've got what we'll call a linear beat. It's simple. It just adds the same layer over and over and over. It's just 1 plus 1 plus 1. Super steady, totally predictable. But then you look over on the right at the exponential beat. And here, the new layers are building on all the old ones. It creates this compounding structure that gets way more complex and way more intense, way faster. All right, so let's get precise for a second. Linear growth. It's super simple. It's any pattern that goes up by adding a constant amount each time. It's steady, it's predictable. Really, it's just like taking one step, then another step, then another. Now, here's the flip side. Exponential growth. This is where a pattern increases by multiplying what's already there by some constant factor. So it's not about adding one more step. It's about doubling or tripling. It's about scaling up what you already have. And believe me, that makes all the difference in the world. So there you have it, our two models, adding versus multiplying. Now let's see what happens when we actually put them head to head. Let's pit them against each other. But before I show you the results, let me ask you this. Just think about it. If you've got one process that's adding 10 every single time and another one that's doubling every time but starts out way smaller, which one do you think gets off the starting line faster? Just keep this quote in your head. Exponential growth doesn't show off early. It waits. It's so true. It's often quiet, it seems kind of slow at the start, and that is exactly why it's so easy to underestimate its power. And you know what? That whole waiting game, it leads us right to the climax of this whole explainer. That moment of truth we're calling the Bodak breakpoint. Okay, here it is. The race is on. On the left, our linear beat comes out of the gate strong, starting at 10 and adding 10 each cycle. Nice and steady. Over on the right, our exponential beat starts smaller, just at 5, but it's doubling. So look, by cycle 3, linear is still ahead, 30 to 20. It really looks like the tortoise and the hare, right? But then, look at cycle 4. Bam! They meet, they're tied at 40, and after that, oh man, exponential doesn't just pull ahead, it absolutely explodes. Just look at cycle 6, 160 to 60. It's not even close. Game over. That exact moment, right there at cycle 4. That is it. That is the Bodak breakpoint. It's that critical crossover point where the patient compounding power of exponential growth finally overtakes the steady, predictable march of linear growth. So, what's the big lesson in all this? Well, it brings us right back to the core idea we started with. The next time you see a chart, any chart, or any pattern of growth, I want you to do something. Don't just stare at the shape of the curve. Ask yourself about the structure underneath. Is this thing growing by adding a fixed amount, or is it multiplying based on what was already there? That's the only question that really matters.
So to put it as simply as I can, forget the shape. You have to look at the engine of the change. If the engine is adding, it's linear. If the engine is multiplying, it's exponential. And that second one, the multiplying one, that's the one with all the hidden power. It doesn't matter if you're talking about compound interest in your bank account, how a virus spreads, or how a new technology takes over the world.
Honestly, this is a mental model you can use everywhere. Which leaves us with one final thought to chew on. Now that you know how to look for the structure instead of getting fooled by the shape, what else in your world is secretly growing exponentially, just quietly waiting to hit its own Bodak breakpoint?